This video would not have been possible without help from a legendary tanker known as Joshua Hoffel. I cannot thank you enough. If you are interested in automatic firearms, exotic animals, and tanks, check out the Ox Ranch. There will be more details on their operation in a future behind the scenes video. And no, the name of the ranch is just a coincidence. Soviet and Russian Federation tankers have, since their infancy, distinguished themselves from regular soldiers with their striking black uniforms and soft padded helmets. It is only now, decades after the fall of the Soviet Union, where the Russian tanker receives his first major upgrades. This video is a comparison between the Soviet Cold War tanker kit and the Russian Federation's modern Ratnik tanker kit. The word Ratnik translates to warrior and is the name of Russia's future soldier program. Let's get started. This iconic black tanker suit is a two-piece set for summer weather. It features a T-72 yellow tank emblem and was one of the types seen during the Soviet-Afghan War. The khaki-colored version only came out later in that conflict. The pants have an integrated belt, and the shirt smartly has an internal pocket for a Makarov pistol. This allows a tanker to quickly exit his tank without being hindered by carrying a weapon, though a lot of tankers just wore a holster on their hip anyway. The helmet that we have is the later TSH-4M summer version that includes a headset with throat microphone for the intercom. This helmet protects the crewman from bumping himself while working inside the tank and is obviously not ballistic. In fact, Soviet tankers never had any kind of ballistic protection besides the occasional fireproof suit, if that even counts. But they did have a special gadget in the PNV-57 night vision goggles, like these 57E type. These goggles come mounted on a TSH helmet and plug directly into the tank. They're not too heavy, but produce a loud buzzing sound from the large transformer in the rear. The transformer acts as a counterweight. As a whole, the Soviet set is light, comfortable, and ideal for hot conditions. The temperature soared past 100 degrees as we worked. So long as you don't follow the regulations and keep the shirt untucked, you'll be fine. Transitioning with hot weather in mind, the new Ratnik uniform, clad in digital flora camouflage, introduces a number of built-in vents to beat the heat. The fire-resistant suit also includes padding to protect the crewman's extremities, though the shirt no longer has the internal Makarov pocket. That's because it's become impractical due to the first truly major change to the crewman's loadout, the 6B48 soft body armor. This vest is the first set of body armor to be widely issued to Russian tankers. It's built to withstand shrapnel fragments hitting at about 1800 feet per second. For reference, your typical 9mm bullet travels at around 1200 feet per second, so it's probable that this armor could withstand pistol rounds. The design of the vest is very reminiscent of the early US Pasget or Interceptor body armor systems with similar weight and protection. The vest closes with a long strip of Velcro and a zipper. It's got MOLLE webbing and a Velcro strip for securing the helmet's intercom plug. Keep in mind, this whole protective set is called the 6B48. The fire-resistant uniform is the 6B48-3, the body armor is the -1, and the helmet is the -2. The -2 is the first bulletproof helmet issued to Russian crews. The ballistic cap of this helmet definitely meets the US equivalency of an NIJ Class 3A protection level, meaning it can take pistol hits and shrapnel confidently. But what makes this helmet really cool is that underneath the removable ballistic cap is a soft mesh with pads reminiscent of the older TSH-4 helmet. I'm sure that with the variety of cramped Russian vehicles, it might be possible that the ballistic cap would impede the operation of some of them, though American crewman helmets can also remove the ballistic cover fairly easily, so it's probably just for replacing the ballistic cap. And so, for the first time, the Russian tanker now has extra protection against shrapnel when he is inside or turned out of the tank, when he otherwise would have been naked. But this isn't exactly a blessing in every situation. The T-72 is an especially cramped tank, and we found that during evacuation drills, the mollywebbing and the bulk of the body armor would catch on the hatches and the seat of the tank. Even more crucially was that the bulk of the armor makes transitioning from the driving to the fighting compartment an absolute nightmare. This transition is extremely important for replacing injured crew members or allowing the driver to escape if the gun blocks the driver's hatch. My body represents an ideal tanker, that is to say, small, at 5 foot 7 inches and 170 pounds. But even I wasn't able to go from the driving to the fighting compartment with the armored vest on. And you can forget about exiting to the driver's emergency floor hatch. I didn't appreciate the vest during the Texas heat, and Josh admitted to me that Abrams tankers would sometimes do without their own armored vests in similar conditions, if they thought they could get away with it. According to a Soviet tanker that served in Afghanistan, the typical drill for evacuating a tank saw the gunner give covering fire with a proper rifle as others evacuated, making a run for it with only their pistols. But the circumstances of the tank being hit could definitely change what weapons the crewmen were able to grab. So let's focus on something a little more certain, like those weapons themselves. Soviet tankers before the Afghan War were usually issued AKMS rifles, but were later issued AKS-74 rifles, their most prolific arm in the Soviet-Afghan conflict, as 74U carbines were not widely issued to tankers until late into the war. My Soviet tanker preferred using the AKMS instead of the AKS-74, mostly because the side-folding stock and extra inch or two from the new compensator obstructs its movement a little more than the underfolder does. These two weapons are easy enough to handle when going in and out of hatches, so long as their stocks are folded. But the 74U's shorter size makes it not only easier to store inside the tank, but you can also keep the stock extended, allowing you to shoulder it properly after maneuvering out of the hatch. Protection at the cost of comfort, and in some rare cases, protection that could paradoxically reduce survivability. Don't get me wrong, I think that the Russians should have given their tankers body armor and helmets a long time ago. The tank's armor can't protect the crew when they're not in it, and tankers won't always be inside their tanks. Even in these cramped conditions, that extra chance to survive outweighs the downsides in my opinion. And with the T-72 being slowly replaced by a set of roomier, futuristic vehicles like the Armada, this crew protection is yet another milestone that represents a significant departure from Russia's Soviet legacy. Thank you very much for watching, and as promised, this was one of my so-called much more insane projects. I couldn't have done it without help from Drive Tanks in Texas. If you live in the US and want to operate some tanks, check them out. Some of the tanks have working cannons that you can fire, not to mention all the machine guns you can rent. Also, I've got to say, YouTube recently took away my monetization and then returned it to me a few days later. There's no telling when I could lose it for good, and I'd really like to be reliant on my audience rather than a large corporation to keep myself running. You could enable that by subscribing to my Patreon to support what I do. I'll be giving away several free cat tourniquets courtesy of Commando Store, randomly, to anyone that comments on this video.
Часы, что полвека стоят, надо дыр зацеловать.